Coming up this week on New Media Tech, we have toys and more toys showing you how you can get audio into your computer. Right after this. Hello, it's time for another Mac Minute. I'm Mike Myers, and this week we're going to kind of pick up where we left off last week with some audio. Plus, we have a couple news items and a few more things. So we're going to get started here right off. First thing in news this week, something kind of big I think happened this week. I haven't had a chance to test this yet, but YouTube has now announced YouTube Live. There are a few things that you have to do to get into it, which one of the things we don't meet is we never really sent to be a partner before. So we're in that process right now, but they do say to have over 1,000 subscribers. Well, we have over 1,000 subscribers, but we have multiple channels. So we're trying to figure out how that works. We don't have one channel for all of our shows. Each show has its own channels. However, each of those shows but one has over 1,000 subscribers already. So any of them could be put into a live stream. So we're trying to figure out what's the best way to handle that. Do we just create one large stream and merge our shows, which I don't really want to do because I know our shows are different enough that not everyone watches all of our shows. But would they allow us to create one stream with all of our shows duplicating it? So we're going through those questions now with YouTube, and we are not a partner. We're trying to figure out all the steps we got to go through to become a partner. But with YouTube Live, from what I can tell, there is no commercials or ads in it like Ustream or anything like that, at least not yet. The couple of the people that I've talked to that have been testing it have said that they have fairly long delays, sometimes the 20 to 50 second delay, which would be a little bit weird in a live show. Of course, if you're not interacting with us, you would never notice the difference. But if we're trying to get interaction from you in our chat room, that definitely makes a difference. And that's something we want to experiment with as well. So we don't know where it's going to take us, but it's something we do plan to experiment with, and I hope to get more information from other people that have tried it already as well. Only thing we use YouTube for is to put our videos up there because it's an easy way to get found in search engines, and that's also how we embed our video on our website. That's why we have, a typical video gets between 7,000, 12,000 views is because people are watching it on our website when we announce it and through searches on YouTube, because we only have about 1,200 subscribers average probably on our channels. We're trying to increase that. That's why we're always asking you to go out and hit subscribe, because the more of those we get, the easier it is to promote our shows and stuff like that. So that's why when we ask you to go out and subscribe on YouTube or even give us a like in iTunes, that's huge for us. In fact, this show in iTunes doesn't even show up with a rating yet because we don't have enough comments and ratings for it to show up in the rating system, which means we're going to be presented on the front page. So that's why we're always asking for your help. So we're trying to determine how that YouTube Live is going to work for us, but we also want to investigate it for other people as well. So that's the news item this week that I wanted to cover. It's a fairly big news item for a lot of people. It's just it's another whole avenue. If I was like Ustream or other companies, I'd be a little concerned because I'm not sure what they're going after. If they're not going to show advertisements, then the show owners are more likely to flock towards YouTube. That doesn't say they're not going to do it ever. That may change in the future as well. They could go to some kind of freemium type thing where they're just not trying to get the people to broadcast on it and get people to use it. So I don't know where it's going to go in the future, but as it is right now, there is no advertising on it. So we'll keep an ear to the ground on that one. So last week we talked about audio, and we're going down the whole audio track. So if you want to do just an audio podcast, where's some of the things you needed. And we showed you different kinds of mics, and we showed you USB mics, and we showed you non-USB mics. And USB mics, obviously, you plug right in the computer and you get your audio. But what if you want to go to something like this Heil, and you wanted to go to something a little bit better audio quality than one of the USB mics? How do you get the audio into the computer? Now, I'm going to give you a couple different ways of doing it tonight. I'm going to give you the inexpensive, very inexpensive. I don't want to use the word cheap, but I'm going to use the word cheap. I'm going to show you some things that are only a couple bucks. Now, I haven't tested them very extensively, so the little bit of testing that I did, they worked very quickly and very easily, but I haven't sat down side by side and compared them. In fact, I'm probably going to say the audio quality is not as good as your typical professional level type of piece of equipment. But if you already have a microphone and you have something that gives in 1/8 inch input, which I'm going to say, if you got a microphone that has an 1/8 inch input on it, it's probably from one of those old-fashioned tape recorders. So just to be careful of that as well. You don't find them around anymore. But if you have some way of getting an 1/8 inch in, or if you want to like play your iPod for background music into the computer as additional input to addition to your microphone, something like this may be what you want. It could work for you just fine. Like I said, I got a couple of them. They're only a couple bucks a piece. I'm going to show you how much they were. A little bit. It's a little scary actually how little they cost. But then I'm going to go into the next level and I'm going to show you some additional things. So let's get started. Let's look at. I'm going to go to this camera over here, this overhead camera, and I'm going to show you these two pieces of hardware. This is a USB interface, and on the bottom you see it has a microphone, the red one, and a headphone, which is the green one. Very inexpensive. I think this one was like $3. I'm going to show you what the actual cost was when I bought it here in a second, so you can actually see it. And then we have this other one, which has a few more buttons on it. You see you have the volume up and down right here for the headphones right there. You can do mute right here for your microphone, and you can do mute for the speakers as well. Not that you would probably use that stuff very much, but this is a few more features. On the bottom, again, you have your microphone and your headset. And again, there's not much more to these, not very much. And as far as options go, they're very, very basic. So let me hop over and I'm going to show you the cost of one of these. And this is the little one, the no frills one, was $8.99 at Amazon Prime. And the other one, which had a few buttons on it, was only $2.85. And like I said, these both work just by plugging them in very, very simply. I did this on a Mac. I didn't really check it on a PC, but it worked right off. And again, I didn't check the quality of the audio like in a long period of time. I went through it fairly quickly and saw that it worked. And this is an option you can look at, and it's a very inexpensive option to try. So that's one way you can get it in. And the other way I want to show you are this is something that I actually have used in the past, and I do still use this occasionally. And I'm going to swap it out here on the table. What you see me holding in my hand is a Alesis soundboard. And let me just go show you the soundboard here. And it's a little close maybe. And you can see let me see if I can zoom this camera out a little bit while I make all the noise in the background. All right, so there you see, it's an Alesis. It is a 8-channel Alesis. So you see we have 4 mic level inputs right here, and that's these 4 channels. And then we have 2 stereo inputs right here that are coming in on 1/4 inches, and you actually can bring also back in from tape and out to tape through one of the auxes. It's 2 auxes. One is pre-aux and one is a post-aux. They are not configurable, so there's a lot of flexibility in that. But it's enough to get you a mix minus if you had to. You can see you have some gains adjustments up here and your low cuts, and you have some effects, which never use the effects on this board, so I don't know how good they really are. And the thing that I like about this board, though, is if you look on the back, you see right here is a USB port. So this Alesis takes the 2 stereo outs and brings it in as the 2 additional channels on your computer. So this would allow you to take and bring in up to 8 channels into your computer using USB. And this is an Alesis soundboard. I didn't check the price before, but it's like $150, I think, something in that range. But that would give you a lot more flexibility than using one of those little adapters, obviously. And I've used it in the past quite a few times, and the audio sounds great. So it's always worked very well for me, and it's a great option if you're traveling around. In fact, that's kind of how I use it, or have used it in the past, is bringing this in USB. I typically do record audio out to something else and separately as a backup, but it's always worked fine. Never had to go back and use that. So this is another option to get audio in. Now there's other companies that make these. I like Alesis equipment for the most part, so that's why I had this. And this is actually couple years old for me now. I don't remember exactly how old it is. Some people don't like the funny things, don't like the turn knobs versus the faders. It doesn't bother me either way, because you generally get the audio set and you don't mess with it after that anyways. But this is another option, and it's not. It's a fairly inexpensive option as well. But what I also want to show you is some other audio interfaces, and I don't have these here. So I'm just going to show you some different ones that I've used in the past, and that's over here. And we'll go to this very first one. I've used Lexicon once, so and I had a good experience with it. So I'm going to say it's not a bad option. It's a lower cost of the three options I'm getting ready to show you though. So they basically have 2-channel ins, so you can do a stereo left and right in through USB. So it's less channels than what the mixing board is. However, I would consider it a little bit higher end. Well, for the most part, higher end. Yeah, so you still need a soundboard, or this one you can do 2 mics and you can basically center them, and they both would be 2 separate mics, or you can do left and right input. And there's also a monitor mix too, so you can plug in a headphone and see what's going into the computer as well. And that's $59 or $60 basically. Now, one of my favorite ones is the PreSonus. I use quite a bit of PreSonus gear. I actually very much like it. Their mic pre's are really good, really warm. Again, this is a 2-channel, and you see the price jump up here. It's a $149, and this is again a USB. And you still have your headphone monitor, which just comes out the back. It does take different types of inputs, so this will allow you to do both XLR or 1/4-inch inputs, which I don't think that the Lexicon had that. No, well, actually, the Lexicon has a little bit of a mixture of stuff here. If you look at the back of it, it's the front, where's the back? So the Lexicon has 1 mic and 1 line. So basically, you would have to somehow take your XLR microphone down into a 1/4-inch, or use 2 separate line ins to do it that way as well. Because you see on the front is the instrument, so not good for doing 2 mics necessarily, or even a stereo, some kind of stereo mix. But when you get to the PreSonus, you'll see these plugs, and these are XLRs and 1/4-inch. The 1/4-inch goes in the center, and you see the 3 pins where the XLR goes, and it slips on the outside. And there's not really a lot going on in the back of PreSonus. You see you have MIDI, and actually the other one didn't have MIDI on it either, but in your case, most people don't probably need MIDI. But then you have your main outs as well in your phone right here. So it can also do main out, which the other one, the Lexicon could as well. That was what the line out was for. So see, it's a very simple 1-channel, 2-channel. You can mix your input, your playback, your headphone volume, and your main output volume. And the USB goes right to the computer, and you can record right in to the computer with it. Very good equipment. I can definitely recommend the PreSonus equipment. I have a lot of good experience with them. I've also had good experience with M Audio. And you'll see this one's actually probably a little bit more expensive. Actually, I'm not even sure I can get a price on this one in here. No, actually on their site. They make a couple different versions of this. They make a more professional version of this one as well, but this one works just fine for what you're trying to use it for, with getting just 2 channels in. With all these products, though, if you want to get more than 2 channels, you're going to have to buy some kind of mixing board. So you may want to look at a mixing board with a USB interface as an option. You can see it's USB powered. It looks like, I'm pretty sure all of these, and definitely the PreSonus and the M Audio, have phantom power. I'm not sure about the Lexicon, if it has phantom power or not. I don't see where it has phantom power, so it may have it, it just doesn't say it. I don't see any kind of 48 volt switch on it either. I can't say that it does have phantom power. I have to read through the description of it, but I definitely know the PreSonus and the M Audio have phantom power on them. The difference with the M Audios is they're top load, so the plug's going from the top versus going in from the back, and that's just a preference thing as to how you like to see it. I think I personally like them coming in from the front and the back, but the problem with the PreSonus is it's in the front, so you want to load your cables into the front, and you can see they come into the front right there, and that's sometimes a little bit awkward cabling wise, so it doesn't really matter so much. But I will say the quality of the M Audio stuff is just as good as the PreSonus. From what I can tell, the mic pre's on the PreSonus may just be slightly warmer. than the mic pre's that are on the M Audio. But I've had good experiences with both of those. Like I said, I've only used a Lexicon one time, so I can't really comment so much on that one. So that's the different ways you can get your audio into the computer when you're trying to record audio. Now you can do the same way when you're recording video. You still have to get the audio in, so this stuff all applies to somebody doing video as well. Although there's additional options you have with video, which we'll talk about later, and some of them are even on camera. And depending on what you're using to switch, you could take a camera mic, which doesn't always sound good, but in a pinch you have it. Things like that as well. All right, so that is getting audio into the computer. Now we're going to continue next week down the audio path just a little bit more. In a couple of episodes ahead, we're going to talk about content distribution networks, and that goes for video and audio, different ways you can distribute your podcast, different places you can go to stream it live, and that's all coming up in future episodes as well. So I think I mentioned this last week. We're going through a couple of changes here, and I'm trying to insert some equipment to automate our workflow a little bit, because what you probably don't know is when I record this live, and if you're watching the stream live, you don't see any lower thirds in this area, like right here. And if you watch it post, you do see that. So what happens with our shows here is when we get done recording here, we hit stop, we take it over to another machine, copy it off, and we stick it into an editor, and we basically trim the beginning and the end of it off so it starts and stops the right place. We throw the intro on the front and any other ads or billboards that go in the front, and then we throw the ending on as well, and then we throw lower thirds in, and then we render that out. And after we hit render, we're pretty much done with it. Everything else is automated at that point. But the thing is, it can take a half hour sometimes to go through and edit stuff and copy the files off and all that. So what we're trying to do is get to the point where it's all kind of automated. And our issue is our switcher we're using, which is a Blackmagic Design ATM or ATEM, does do graphics, but doesn't do them very well. And you can only put 2 of them in the bucket at a time. So if you want to change them back and forth, somebody's been sitting there and running that. Well, a lot of times I'm doing the shows by myself. Like tonight, I'm here by myself. And it would be too hard for me to be able to do that and go into the graphics and switch which graphic goes in the graphic 1, which one goes in the graphics 2, and all that. Plus, it doesn't do great video playback. Actually, it doesn't do video playback at all. Ours doesn't. So we're trying to figure out a way to get that done during the live show. So the goal would be we walk out of here with the recording, we stick it in the other machine, and while it's still on the SSD drive that we take over there, we just trim off the beginning and the end and say render it. And it'd be that quick. And it'd be a couple minutes and we'd be done. So to do that, we're putting something in between the ATEM switcher and our recorder, because basically the workflow of the equipment flow goes from the ATEM switcher to our recorder, from the recorder out to the live stream. So what we want to do is put something in between the ATEM and the recorder that can do the lower thirds. So we've decided to use Wirecast on a Mac Mini, and you saw some of the equipment last week that is in that process. So it's all plugged up now at this point. Although at this moment we're still not going through it. We're still working out some kinks because Wirecast is kind of new to us, or new to me especially, and we're trying to figure out how to automate that with the ATEM. So what I'm working on, and I think I've shown these to you before, and sorry for all the noise I'm making, but too many toys. This is a Korg Nano Control, and actually I have a couple different kinds here. This is a Nano Control, there's a Nano Key, and there's a Nano Pad right here. So I'm trying to make it so whenever I switch with one of these, I, in addition to switching the ATEM, I'm going to bring up a lower third, possibly optionally bring up a lower third automatically, depending on who's on that camera, and bring up additional lower thirds and do all that stuff kind of live. Right now I do switching either off this computer or off the iPad, unless somebody's in the other room doing it for me, which that happens, quite often as well, both ways. And that's the case. It'd be really easy just to give them the control, and they would be able to just do it all kind of automatically. So that's the goal behind putting this in between there. Now we're still writing the code for these. It's getting there. I have it working on the ATEM, and I have it working. I have the code to get it working on the Wirecast machine, but what I don't have them is working together completely yet. So I'm getting it pretty close. But hopefully maybe next week I can actually demonstrate that. That'd be our hope. And ultimately, we want to go to something better than these little Korg controls. They work great in a pinch, and there's some somebody gave me a link to a library that works with Arduino that I maybe do some stuff with the Arduino. I've looked at also using this, which is an X keys, which they're great. The problem is, if you're listening, they're very noisy. So if I just sit in front of me and I was pressing the buttons, you would hear me hitting the buttons. Now I can't have that. The Nano Control is soft, so you don't hear it buttons being pressed. The Nano Keys is noisy too. It's a very plasticky, not a clicky noise. And the Nano Pad, which you cannot hear, the problem is that it's like a drum pad. You can't tell when you're really pushing it. It doesn't really have a tactile. It's been pushed. So none of these are ideal. And we're still trying to find out the ideal ones. And they may end up being that we make our own control. And that's something that we're looking at as well. My first step is to make it so that it works together with Wirecast and the ATEM. And it should be transparent to you or the end viewer that it's doing two things at once. So that's what we're working on kind of behind the scenes this week. The equipment is in place and it's been tested and it's working fine. I'm just not comfortable enough with it yet to actually put it into the workflow during the live recording. So we haven't done that yet. So ultimately what our workflow we're hoping is I walk out of here and either give the SSD drive to somebody else or just take it over to the computer myself, stick it in and bring up Adobe Premiere and say trim off the beginning, trim off the end, hit render, and I leave it alone, because at that point it goes into automation and does everything else on its own. So that's our goal, to try to get to that point, and that will allow us to actually do more shows on a shorter period of time and get the new shows out a lot quicker. So a couple other things I want to talk about this week. First of all, I'm going to make this a show officially an 8 p.m. Monday night show. I've been doing it at 8 p.m. every week, and I was never one to stick it in to a specific time because I wasn't sure where it was going to fit. And it's going to fit right here. At 8 I'm doing it at 8 p.m. So I'm just going to say it's Monday night, 8 p.m. I'm going to start trying to build the community a little bit around this show. So you can count on it now being at 8 p.m. And we're also moving our Tuesday night show, Let's Make It, to 9 p.m. on Mondays. Just so it works better for one of our guests here and for everybody else on the West Coast, which they say they can't ever watch it because it's out in the middle of moving around, either going home or whatever. So we're just going to change it, the day and the time. And we probably won't have any shows planned, and at least not immediately, on Tuesday nights. We will probably release the program on Tuesdays, but that is, again, a pre-recorded, and you may just be lucky enough to find us recording it one day when you stop by and watch a live stream. It doesn't happen. We don't announce that, then we just do it. So one of the other things, and let me see if I can actually get to it before I talk about it. What was it? 120. I can. Good. Okay, so I'll hold this up and I'll see if you can see what it is. Can you read that? No, not really. You can probably read what it says. It says on air. Oh, it just says on air to me. How's that? No. You can't read it because the protective cover is still on it. But we have been working on this light, and here's the rest of it right here. That is software controlled, and it actually goes out and reads your stream to determine if you're online or offline your stream. And we're very close. Actually, we have it working. We're just trying to work out a couple of little mounting issues and things like that at this point. And I can actually show you the interface. So this is the current measurement for the last 24 hours of both Ustream and Justin TV. Right now, they're the only two CDNs that I know for sure I can get viewer data from. Now you see this little blank spot right here. That's because I had it offline so just before the show started again to show you what it looked like. So I have no data for this period of time. And if you scroll down, you can see I have it for a longer period of time. Here's 7 days worth of data, averaged every 5 minutes. And then scroll on down, and here is 2 weeks. And you scroll down a little bit farther, and there it is by month. So you can kind of see what the view is. And You see right here, we have Ustream and Justin TV are green. That's just basically saying that they are both up. If something would happen that one of those would go down, they would turn red. Now, when you can program the light, you give the light in your settings here, your details, and in the details, you put in your channel names. Do you want to monitor the channel status or in performance? And the light comes on when all feeds are up, or you can say when any feed is up. So in this case, the light would be on because both of these are currently up. So that's how you can configure the light. Now we plan on adding more of these. I did request from Vaughn TV, and they can tell me if it's on or off, online or offline, but it can't tell me the user count. So I have to go through and decide, do I want to modify it so that I can tell you when the light's on, but it won't be able to measure it. So that's something we can do as well. And I'm looking for other CDNs that can do this. The four that I use, I only know that Ustream and Justin TV can do that, and Vaughn can do status of the light or status of the stream. But from the other ones that I've used, I don't think there's any measurement. There's nothing public, at least, as far as an API to go out and check that. So if this is something that's interesting to you and you know of an API for another CDN, please let me know. I'll be happy to add that in here. It's a very quick add, and definitely would like to grow this to as many CDNs as possible. And you only got to use the ones that you have. If you don't use Justin TV, you leave a blank and it just ignores it. It won't even show up on your screen, won't measure it or anything. So definitely like to expand this light a little bit. All right, let me go look at my notes, but I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for this week. Like I said, it'll be a very quick week. And so next week, we're going to talk about some free tools. I'm reading my notes, sorry, I don't look at the camera. Some free tools to help you get organized. Now, we use Google Docs, and we're going to cover that in pretty good depth because we share a lot of the documents we do around here with outsourcers or things like that do other work for us as well. So it's a great way to keep organized. We've actually gone and moved all of our Exchange email into Gmail now, so we don't have hosted Exchange anymore. That's all been closed up. And there's some really good tools out there. There's other tools that we've written some custom stuff in, and one of them that I use a lot is called Podio. It's Podio. It's by Citrix, and it's one of the things that they installed. Asked if we wanted to install when we put in Google Docs. Do you want to try Podio? I thought, sure, I'll try it. And that's actually how we track now upcoming show ideas, guests, things like that. So we're going through and we're tracking all that stuff as well. And then the week after that, I think we're going to cover CDNs, content distribution networks, or I forget the other name people use for them, but they basically are places you stream your stuff to distribute your content, whether it be audio or video. There's both. There's CDNs for both. And we're going to cover those a little bit. And then the week after that, I think we're going to cover software to do your podcast. We have our own software that we've written here. We'll show you what it does, but that's not something that's publicly available. There's some things you can do in WordPress, although we're not big fans of WordPress. There are some WordPress plugins that can do a lot of this work for you as well. And plus you can go places to like FeedBurner and things like that will do a lot of the stuff for you. Some of the CDN networks that you can join will do this stuff for you as well, and we'll cover all that and the pros and cons to all that, because there are some pros and cons to all the different ways that you can do that. And we want to make sure you understand what the pros and the cons are for all the different options, because we don't want you to get stuck somewhere and later on figure out, like, I shouldn't have done it that way. That wasn't a good idea. And that's happened to us, so we don't want that to happen to you. If you have, first of all, let me go through this whole spiel of subscribing. I mentioned this in the beginning. It's very helpful for us if you subscribe. It helps us more than you really understand, probably. If you're watching it on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up and a like. Leave a comment. That kind of stuff's awesome. Helps us out considerably. If you're getting this like through some kind of podcasting network like iTunes or something like that, there's generally a way you can rate or leave comments about the podcast, and that's definitely helpful, especially in iTunes, because in iTunes, until you get so many ratings, you don't even get a rating. They say there's not enough feedback to give a rating, but if you don't have a rating, you can't do a lot of things in iTunes to help promote yourself. So it's very helpful for us if you just go out to iTunes, leave us a comment, rate our shows. It doesn't have to be 5 stars, although I really appreciate 5 stars. It doesn't have to be 5 stars. If we're a 4-star to you, then we're a 4-star. But any kind of rating out there definitely helps us show up and get out of the unrated area, which is part of our problem with this particular show. Is we're in the unrated area because we don't have enough comments out there. If you are watching us on YouTube, again, subscribe. Subscribing to us is the best way to get it, because you just get everything automatically, not just on YouTube, but on iTunes or wherever you're getting it content from. Subscribe. If you have a Roku box, you can watch us on Roku. All of our shows are available on Roku, on our Roku app now, and you can download it to Roku 2 or Roku 3s and watch our shows right there. And as we add new shows, they just show up there automatically. If you have a TiVo, you can watch us on TiVo. All of our shows are now on TiVo. We have, you can listen to us on a Zune. If you have a Windows phone, you can watch us on the Windows phone. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways you can get. You can pretty much get us everywhere. Anywhere you can get downloadable content. Stitcher even. Like if you listen to Stitcher Radio, we're at Stitcher channels. We do a lot of that. So, and we're working on some streaming audio as well. So if you want to listen to us as you're out running around or whatever, you can get that as well. That'll help us be available even in the Ford Sync cars. So we're even out there as well. So yeah, you can pretty much get us everywhere. And we'd love to hear from you. If you go to our show page, go to TechZen.tv, go to shows, and then go to New Media Tech, you can find all kinds of contact information. We have a Facebook page, not a very active Facebook page. You can help us out with that a little bit. And we have a phone number you can contact us. In fact, if you call 913-732-3327, you can leave us a voicemail, and your voicemail might even end up on one of these shows. So just kind of keep it clean. We'd love to see what you do as far as new media, whether you're starting on the podcasting, anything like that. You do a short video of your studio or your current setup. A little bit of what you do. Send us a video like on YouTube. Send us a link on YouTube or Vimeo or something like that. Just don't send us the actual video. We won't be able to open up the actual video, but just send us a link to it, and you may see that in a future show as well. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, we love it all. Yeah, again, you can send email to New Media Tech at tech-zen.tv, or you can go to the show page and send us a comment from there. All right, that's it for this week. We'll see you all next week.